Now, I don't want to say he is a bad player. He is absolutely not. He is one of the best, if not the best goaltender on the planet right now. He won't win the Vezina because, unfortunately, the Vezina voting is done before the playoffs begin, which means that Connor Hellebuyck, the inevitable winner, and his terrible playoff record will not be reflected in the results. But when it comes to the guy who many could say is number one in the world right now, Igor Shesterkin may end up becoming a problem for the New York Rangers if things go down this path. Shesty is 28 years old, 6'1", 190, left-handed catching goaltender, and you will note that his current contract with $5.6 million as the AAV is expiring a year from now. This guy, once July 1st hits, will be eligible for an extension starting in the 25-26 season. He is coming off of a .913 save percentage and .258 goals against this season, and a .927 save percentage and a .234 goals against in the playoffs. Igor Shesterkin was an absolute monster, especially in these games against the Florida Panthers. He lost 3 straight to get eliminated, but in those 3 losses in games 4, 5, and 6, Shesterkin had a .925 save percentage in game 4, a .944 save percentage in game 5, and a .941 save percentage as they got eliminated. He is a beast, and even Paul Maurice said this was the best goaltending performance he had seen in a playoff series since Jose Theodore, and that guy was a Hart winner when he was in his prime. So Igor Shesterkin is filling up some really good shoes, and because his contract expires a year from now, we can start to think about what exactly an extension could look like. Because, of course, there is no world in which the New York Rangers would think about letting Igor Shesterkin walk. They wouldn't think about trading this guy, they wouldn't think about sending him away. He is their guy, and he's going to remain their guy. Hopefully until the end of Igor Shesterkin's NHL playing career. I mean, could he dethrone King Hank? I think it's possible, but of course, they're gonna probably need to make the finals one day, and maybe win the Stanley Cup too, but who knows if that's gonna be possible with this new update that we have seen in regards to what Igor Shesterkin's contract could look like. This was talked about by Molly Walker on the New York Post, and it was tweeted out there by Phil Kocher. The quote reads this: "There's reason to believe that Igor Shesterkin's camp is aiming for as high of an AAV as $12 million a year, which would be an NHL record-setting cap hit for a goalie." This quote went kinda viral, 389,000 views on Twitter in a day, and a whole bunch of replies and retweets. This was a pretty big deal, and when it comes to Igor Shesterkin being the guy, I'm not gonna go out there and say that he does not deserve that money. If there's anybody that deserves to be the number 1 paid goaltender in the NHL, I'm sorry, it doesn't have to be Sergei Bobrovsky, it's gotta be Igor. He is that good. But man, oh man, $12 million bucks? I mean, I get it, he's worth it, but how is that going to impact the rest of the New York Rangers? That seems to be the big conversation that everybody is bringing up when it comes to Igor. That yes, he's worth as much money as you can give him, but could the Rangers be kind of handcuffing themselves by giving $12 million to a goalie? Never mind giving $11 million to one forward or X amount of $million to a defenseman. Giving this much money to a goalie is a huge risk, and we have seen this time in and time out. Just take a look at the Winnipeg Jets. Take a look at Sergei Bobrovsky. Like, of course, I get it. Sergei was all right now when he ended up winning the Eastern Conference Finals 2 years in a row, but there was a period of Sergei Bobrovsky's contract early on that was really not worth it, where he was just not great and he was inconsistent, and then the contract was seen as one of the worst in the NHL because it's so expensive and he was not good. Goaltending is so versatile that even though one guy can have an absolutely stellar playoff run, maybe even one playoff series, it does not guarantee anything for the regular season next year, whether he plays 20 games as a backup or 60 as a main starter. Nothing is guaranteed in net, and so shelling out $12 million to the best goalie in the league, it makes sense. You have to start thinking, is that really the best use of $12 million a year? Now, Phil goes out there and replies saying, hey, here's a small but important detail. In all likelihood, the number the team and the player would likely agree to lies between this $12 million number and whatever the lowest among his comparables is as well. In other words, it's probably closer to 10 or 10.5 million instead of 12. That, of course, is how negotiations are done. You have two numbers, you have a high, you have a low, and you kind of work together before you meet in the middle, take 80% of it or whatever, and that's kind of where she goes. Igor Shesterkin making 10 or 10.5 is a lot more attainable, and it's a lot easier to stomach since a lot of goalies make that much money as well. But reaching up to 12, I feel like that's a little bit excessive considering the status of the NHL. Of course, not considering the talent level of Shesterkin. He is worth being the #1 guy. I cannot stop repeating that. But just him being a $12 million asset kind of spooks me in regards to where the Rangers can go with the rest of their money. Here are some other replies. First one from Jack Neal says, I don't believe in paying up for a goalie, I'd rather have a strong decor. Phil then says, hey, these are not antonyms, you can do both. You should do both, have a good goalie and a decor. The main issue right now is roster balance and composition. This hurts New York way more right now because they have $8 million and 6/7 and a lot of guys who need raises. Another reply says, I love Igor, but wow, this is going to handcuff the rest of the lineup. He was really good in the playoffs, he was this, he was that. And then there are some haters going out there saying, hey, that's so great. 0 playoff shutouts, 44 tries, overhyped, outplayed by Bobrovsky. Game 5 was an awful performance. I love Igor, but you cannot pay him $12 million per. The goal should be to build a team that doesn't need a $12 million goalie to have a chance at a cup run. And so I wanted to turn the floor to you. Let me know your thoughts in the comments section below as to whether or not Igor Shesterkin making $12 million is a good thing or a bad thing for the New York Rangers. It's not a bad thing for the league. The guy needs to make that money because he's that good. It's not bad for him himself. Of course, getting the bag is awesome. But for the New York Rangers and their perspective, is this the proper way to do business and build their team? There are some replies in this that are going out there and saying, hey, if Igor is gonna get that, if that's the ask, and if it's unmovable, they should just trade him. They should just let him go. Find somewhere else to use that money. Use $10 million of that $12 million and get yourselves a good goalie, and then use the extra $2 million to get a really good depth piece to help you out in the penalty kill or something. There's a lot of options you could do with $2 million extra bucks, and I get it, you could say the cap could be going up as well over the next few years, which would mitigate any sort of risk with an Igor Shesterkin $12 million AAV contract, but at the same time, the contract starts in 25-26, so you have a very small amount of time before you're able to bolster up the rest of the roster for that. I mean, if you wanted to capitalize on the window of opportunity that exists right now because Igor's only making $5 million and he's so cheap compared to his value, then now is that time. But how long is that window going to stay open for? You've got 1 year left. Can you win the Stanley Cup in that time frame to take full advantage of Igor Shesterkin playing this amount of hockey at this dollar amount? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. How do you feel about the $12 million potential contract ask and 8-digit contract amount for Igor Shesterkin AAV-wise, which probably will start out in 25-26 with the New York Rangers. We know the Rangers are not going to let this guy go. They're going to keep him at whatever dollar amount he wants because he is that good, he's that important. But where do you draw the line? Where does the rest of the Rangers team start to suffer because of the amount of money that Igor Shesterkin could be eating up in salary on his own? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I hope you enjoyed this video. And bye.